Thanks for joining us. This is our extended interview with Chris Cassaday, the Director of Operations here at GNGF. The first part of this video is from our GNGF Live, which happens every other Wednesday over on our Facebook page. The second part here, in this bonus extended interview, we dive into specific examples that Chris has of something he did, tactics he actually did for a client that map to all the second trend that we're talking about. If you already saw the live, I'll put the timestamp to the exclusive extended interview part below, where you can find out the specific tactics he used for a client. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can follow along with all of our great conversations on legal marketing and the business side of running a law firm. Welcome to GNGF Live, your bi-weekly Ask the Experts about all things law firm marketing and business growth. I'm Mark Homer, author of Online Law Practice Strategies and founder of Get Noticed, Get Found. On this show, we focus on the business side of growing and running your law firm. So I'm excited to have today's guest, Chris Cassaday, our Director of Operations here at GNGF. Chris runs our account team and handles all of our clients, all the delivery, and is actually, I think voted by our clients as one of the nicest people they work with out of all their vendors. So we are going into our second trend out of three trends of marketing in 2021 for law firms. And as always, be sure to like and subscribe to our page, not just the video, so you can get updated when our next episode goes live. Of course, it never hurts for you to show just a little love and hit that like button on the video too. It really helps a lot. We've got moderators in the chat, so please ask questions and interact during this premiere. And if you're watching this in the future after we premiere, we do monitor the comments and we will reach out to our guests and answer any follow-up questions you have. That's because we love you all, and we love getting online and meeting you, and I'm excited to say, meeting in person again soon. You can find a list of our upcoming webinars, CLEs, and all our other events where we'll be speaking at our website at gnGF.com/events. In fact, we have one next week. We have an extensive library of videos, including extended interviews, as well as our in-depth GNGF tips series, where we dive into other topics like, something similar to today's topic, starting a virtual law firm that Chris Cassaday actually ran. And so much more over there on our YouTube channel. You can watch those videos after this interview, of course, at that link in the chat. Okay, let's get to the interview. All right, Chris, thanks for joining me today, man.
Of course, this is my favorite part of the day.
All right, well, nice thing to say to the boss, right?
I try.
Last time we talked, we planned on talking about like three trends and all the marketing stuff and everything, and we managed to get through one. So I just want to recap. For those who didn't catch the last episode, you should go watch it. We talked about kind of like the data that we had on those people who were marketing a decent amount for the past couple of years didn't get hit as hard as the general population of lawyers based on the Clio data versus data that we had across all the people that were marketing with us. So that was very interesting. I think that's really cool data. Definitely, I always say marketing is important in the downtimes, maybe more than when, rising tides lifting all the boats. It doesn't feel like you need it. But last year, those that were marketing really came out okay. I mean, I don't want to say great. It was a tough year for a lot of people, but
sure.
We had some law firms that I would say even by the end of the year did better than 2019. They had a really rough second quarter. Right?
Yeah.
So we went into that in detail, and then we got into our three trends, of which we got through all of one, Chris. And I think we even had to go to the extended interview on that. So, but the first trend, just to recap, was the way people find your law firm has become much more fragmented. That's what you were talking about, right?
Yes.
And that one was like we talked about. I think you talked about like a multi-channel and omni-channel and email marketing and social media and like repurposing content and stuff. And then I think you went through some deep examples with specific clients that, here's how we did that here, and here's how it was successful, and here's how they got more clients because they did it this way versus the old way. So if you didn't catch that, go see what clients actually did, what Chris and his team did for clients. So that's awesome. So today, what's because I think we got smart this time. It said we're only going to try to cover one trend and maybe do a third one because we just went way too long last time. You can talk about this stuff way too much, I've learned, Chris.
Well, when you put both of us together, it's just a recipe for a long-winded conversation, to say the least. So.
Okay, well, but it'll be an exciting one for those watching. It's long-winded but exciting.
There's good
so
stuff
stick
there.
with us. So marketing trend number 2 is what?
Basically, consumers expect digital service options. COVID, kind of poured gas on that fire, and we've seen a lot of changes over the last year. So we're going to dig into that. We have a lot of good data and then some good stories to go along with it, some real stories from our clients. So it'll be really good.
Awesome. And I like to get into the why. So if you let me, I pulled together some of the data that you and your team, yearly, you're always looking at, what trends, where things were, where things going. There's a few reports that we use that we definitely rely on, kind of things. So the first one, I pulled out three things that, and you guys had a bunch, but I pulled out three I thought were interesting for this interview. It was from the McKinsey and Company thing where they had like the article, they come out with constant reports and stuff. And this one was on reimagining marketing in the next normal, the post-pandemic. So this I thought was interesting. So Teladoc Health, right? So again, we're looking outside the legal industry to kind of say, where are things going, right? That's what you and your team constantly doing every year, because we want to make sure that we're bringing that into to your clients. So Teladoc Health reached 1.7 million people in Q1 2020, which was twice as high as just 2 quarters before, right? In Q3 2019. So 1.7 million people. And this is just in the U.S. So I think there was some data in the U.K. and I think that was big as well that they included. But I think that was, again, showing that trend of people were comfortable meeting with their doctor and going over, a lot of things. People were getting prescriptions online for more than just COVID issues, right? I know you've probably done telemedicine visits. I've done telemedicine visits. They work great.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
And the other one, this one I pulled out because I think people have heard a similar quote because Jack from Clio had this similar quote in a talk when he was at the Clio conference last October, but where McKinsey said, "We have vaulted 5 years forward in consumer and business digital adoption in a matter of 8 weeks," right? So in 8 weeks, like the amount of consumer adoption of like technology of how to accept services, whether they be like business services or groceries, restaurant, all that kind of stuff, right? That leaped 8 years. I mean, like you had, grandmothers downloading Zoom for the first time ever, and the next thing you know, they're experts on iPads and doing like, cat faces and stuff, and accidentally using them in court sometimes. But yeah, like it was crazy, right? The adoption of technology that happened so fast. And then this one, this was interesting. I think it kind of goes back to the other one, but 75% of people that use digital channels for the first time, which means there was a lot of people last year that were using digital channels for the first time, right? The people that were used to going to the grocery store and to the restaurant and to their CPA and to their doctor, right? They started using digital channels. 75% of them said, "This is awesome. We're going to continue using them into what, McKinsey calls the new normal," right?
Yep.
So that was the McKinsey one. The other data I wanted to bring up was the CMO survey that you guys always look at. It was Deloitte. I think it's Duke.
Yeah.
Who's the other one?
The AMA, I think.
Oh, American Marketing Association. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Deloitte, Duke, and the American Marketing Association do the CMO survey that you guys look at every year. And some of the data that I pulled out of this from what you had provided the team was that the return to normal, and this was last year, right? The data you guys were looking at. So the return to normalcy is not expected to occur for 1 to 2 years, which was, here we were all excited about the vaccine coming and things getting back to normal and stuff. But the data was like the return to normalcies for businesses is not expected to be for 1 or 2 years, which is shocking for people because we're like, in the U.S., we are pretty far along in the vaccine here, right? But there's still a lot of countries that are back in lockdown. And so, this goes after small businesses up through like Fortune 500, this survey, right? So you've got, my wife works at a large company, but it's based in the UK. They're not allowed to do any travel, and they just pushed it out through July now, right? And so I think that's this idea of, it's not tomorrow. So, be thinking about these things. Increased value placed on digital experiences expected to never return to pre-pandemic days. This is viewed as a permanent change. So your trend that you came up with, right? This trend number 3 is probably best summed up in that, right? This value placed on digital experience will never return to pre-pandemic days. It is up there. It's here to stay. Move forward. I thought this one was interesting, specifically for lawyers. Is that 25% of B2C services, and this was business to consumers professional services in this area, were from internet-based sales. So, CPAs, doctors, any kind of professional service, business to consumer business. Maybe it's landscaping or whatever too, right? But a business to consumer business, 25% were from internet sales last year, right? Of which some of that was 0 the year before for some businesses.
Yeah,
right? So,
for sure.
Fascinating. And there's something in there about small companies and stuff too. So I just want to get like the big picture stuff, and I want to let you dive into things that you're seeing in legal, and I know you've got some data from like our partners and friends and colleagues that we leverage, but specific things for law firms that either you've noticed from your data and your team, or things that we're leveraging based on what we know from other trends.
Sure. Yeah, I mean the permanent change thing is something that I think like we thought was going to be true just because it's easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
The consumer expectations are there, and if you get someone to adopt something new and it's easier than them, getting in the car, driving to your office, you can do it
Right.
over Zoom. Like, why would that go away? So like the data supports that, and we've seen that, in real life. I mean, we have some clients that are like, I haven't been to the office in 6 months, and I don't need to, and I save a lot of time, and I can, you know, be in, this deposition and this one in the span of 5 minutes when previously I had to drive an hour across town, and like it's crazy. So like the amount of change in such a short period of time because businesses had to and law firms had to was, you know, significant, and it's definitely here to stay for sure. And the consumer expectations are there. I mean, we have that data from Smith AI that talks about like a lot of people, what like 80 something percent of people want some sort of immediate response, right? Immediate gratification. Like I have 3 kids under 7. I know exactly what immediate gratification is. So I'm trying to train my kids that not everything is immediate, but people when they need help and they reach out to a law firm, they want some sort of gratification or some sort of response right then. And that's where something like, live chat would come into play.
Right.
It's 7 o'clock at night. You're not sitting at your desk. Your receptionist is not at her desk. If they call, are they getting a voicemail? Are they getting a real person? If they're on your website, if they have the option of live chat versus a contact form, if they want some sort of, response, that person's probably going to pick live chat.
Right. And you
Doesn't,
guys have done, I mean, you've been doing
yeah,
live chat for law firms for years, and actually
sure.
have some specific data on that that like because you were trying to figure out. It's one of the questions I had posed, like probably 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, so live chat, we see we're getting leads from it, but are we getting less leads from phone because we have live chat now? Like like what is the net new lead kind of thing? And I thought
Mhm.
that was interesting that you actually have like legit data from our clients on that.
Sure. Yeah, I think it was around what 25% or so, like net new. Because it just speaks to a different, type of client or prospective client, right?
Right.
Some people have to pick up the phone. Others, they're fine sending the, email form and you getting back to them. By the way, you should still be fast about responding to that. And then someone needs live chat. They don't want to pick up the phone. They can't, whatever. They want some sort of back and forth where they know that they're being taken care of, right?
Yeah, I think
Um,
there was this maybe 2 years ago. Clio had in their report. And I think they alluded to it in this new one, but it was a very specific data point about the consumers that oftentimes go with the first lawyer that just responds. Right?
correct.
They'll fill out a bunch of contact forms, and then it's like the first person that gets a hold of them gets them on a consultation. A lot of them just go with that person because they got back first.
Yeah.
You had just shared some data that a colleague of ours in the search engine industry and stuff did, where they did some kind of cold calling and emailing
Yeah.
of law firms, and it was like half, I think,
Yeah.
didn't
It
even.
was, it was almost like pit in the stomach, like feeling like, oh my, like, yeah, it was an insane percentage, probably close to half where a lead would come in and the person never got a response
Yeah,
at
no
all.
response. And it was like
No response.
they wrote these leads specific to the practice area.
Yep.
That were like like I live in this particular city and I had this happen to me, which is exactly what they say that they do, and not even a response. And then Clio had similar data the year before, and so yeah, just having these systems and tools like live chat, I think
Hmm.
is a very interesting one. And like like again, live chat's not just live chat; it's also like you've told me the example where you had a client. They had Facebook. They had done a lot of Facebook marketing. Like, hey,
Hmm.
somebody told us to do social media. So they'd done a lot of work on their own on Facebook, which is awesome, by the way. Everybody should be doing that.
Hmm.
But you went in their messenger, like, yeah,
It's
like this is.
that's
I have to have you tell it. It was just crazy.
Yeah, that's like the worst feeling. Now, like, of course, this was like prior to us getting involved and looking at it, but yeah, I looked in like their Facebook Messenger inbox, and there was, I don't, there was a significant amount of potential leads in there. And
Yeah, just
and
unread, like not even
yeah,
read, you said.
unread. And some of the people even like commented again, like, "Hey, is anyone available?" And it's like, oh, like
Yeah.
no, who knows? Like there's probably a lot of dollars sitting there that obviously you can't go back after. It's 6 months later. And those people have already gotten their problem solved, but like it's a missed opportunity. And I think your point with that is, Mark, like some of these, like live chat providers can integrate with Facebook Messenger so
Yep.
that that is monitored for you. And if you get a lead from it, it goes into your normal workflow and you don't have to check 10 different spots.
Correct. And then, or text messaging as well, right? So
Yeah.
you can actually say,
Yep.
text us. And it's really kind of going into your live chat system, and they're able to kind of even have a response back and like, oh, that's great. It sounds like, let me get your data, go back and forth. So they feel like, oh my gosh, it's 9 o'clock at night and this attorney's replying to me, or this attorney's office, right? Like
Yeah.
they don't claim to be the attorney. I mean, they're like, do it the right
Yeah.
way. But like, the attorney's office is replying to me and then getting me scheduled for something. So if it's Friday at 9 o'clock at night and somebody's finally getting around to, oh my gosh, long week. I promised my wife I would call on Monday about this car accident or whatever.
Yeah.
It's, like you're not talking to them until Monday morning. And that's 3 days from when they reached out to you. You have a live chat or a 24/7 email or Facebook Messenger or text message or whatever. You're back to them right away. So that's kind of one of the key things. You'll probably have some examples later, but I just wanted to highlight that Facebook Messenger because that was one that I think nobody ever thinks about. They do all this work on Facebook, and people don't think that they're actually going to go to Facebook Messenger. They don't
Yeah.
go to your website. I mean, you've got data on the amount of people that, and we'll probably talk about that in the next episode too, about the amount of people that don't even end up on your website, right?
Sure.
So specific to, again, lawyers and technology, Clio had a bunch of data, and you shared a few of these with me. I'm going to read a few, and then feel free to jump in and add some color to this, how you've seen it work a little
Sure.
bit. And we'll probably come up with some examples. I want to do some examples of specific things you've done for law firms, but I want to get through kind of some of the why, and then that's probably to be honest, that's probably the goal here. Is like specifically you've taken this why, implemented these tactics, and had some results for law firms, and so I want to make sure we get to that.
Yep.
But this one was 58% of consumers totally mapped to some of the McKinsey data, right? So this is specific to legal, as the Clio Legal Trends said that technology is more important to them now than it was before the coronavirus pandemic. I mean, some of this data, the fact that this was legal specific consumers or law firms, and like the data was all asked around like using a legal service, the fact that it was so close to McKinsey's data, which looked at worldwide general marketing and consumer trends, right? It's fascinating, right? It's like legal consumers aren't so different than consumers.
Sure.
So like think about that, right? I thought this one was interesting, and I know you've done some stuff here, and we just talked about telemedicine, but it was 56%, so well over half of consumers would prefer video conferencing over a phone call, and they didn't even do in person. They just said video conference versus phone call. So
Yeah.
if you have gotten comfortable on Zoom, somebody wants to see the lawyer. We talk about that. I mean, you do it. You talk about it all the time on your website. They want to see the lawyer. Like you're always pushing for get rid of stock images and put pictures of the law firm, right? And so I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that on just that kind of video conferencing portion, or what some of the other trends you've seen, or some data points you have, or
Sure. Yeah, I mean, people want to see who they're going to work with, right? Obviously, if people are reaching out to a lawyer, it's not something they do a lot of times in their life. And they do have, say, anxiety and apprehension about it. So if they can see you and get to know you and, just get the look and feel more than just a phone call, like they're going to want to do that. And then just internally, just as an anecdote, like I don't really have phone calls with clients anymore. Like it's almost all on Zoom, because it's just become the new normal. And why not have the added, layer of, hey, I can actually look at you versus just hear you talk. So, I mean, it's extended to, B2C, but also B2B, of course.
yeah, and I mean the added benefit, right? You can also somebody asks a question, you can say, well, hold on, let me just share that rookie real quick. Let me show you. I mean, I could imagine like if you're a lawyer and somebody's asking a question, you're like, well, hang on, I have a spot on my website. We're just going to go download. Let me just share my screen. You're going to go here, then you click here, you download this. let's pull it up. You need to fill this, this, and this. Don't really worry about this section, but really make sure you get this section, and then
Exactly.
they're off and running, right? You can just share that right there on Zoom. That's totally different than a phone call, right? Trying to walk somebody through where to go on your website over the phone.
Yeah.
I've done that with the, like a reception office at like my dentist recently. They're like trying to explain. They had like hidden where I needed to go download this insurance form or something like that, like buried it in their website, and they have to like explain this every time. And first of all, at the end of the call, being the marketing person, I'm like, that's really interesting. You should probably just put that in a PDF and send me an email.
Yeah.
Like I said, how painful is this to like say every time? She's like, oh, I never thought about that, but you're right. It sucks.
Yeah.
So
true.
that's funny. And then so you've got those who, like video conferencing. We've talked about live chat. We've talked about, just adoption of technology. I know Clio had some interesting data on, and it was I think Clio and they use LawPay, I think, for their payment system, right? So Clio Pay is powered by LawPay. They had some interesting information that law firms last year, they were looking at the data, right? Again, they had all this data that at an aggregate level of people that use the Clio system, along with data that they had interviewed other law firms who didn't use Clio systems. So they had like a decent sample set, and they had where if somebody had a client portal, so that kind of like the documents, the shared documents, and that kind of stuff, they had payments. Right, and they had a CRM, so they had intake, speedy, live chat going in there, like emails going back, like all that kind of stuff was very fast and efficient. They made on average, I forget the number, it was like 3,000 more or something like that per month. It was like they literally legit made more money last year than somebody who didn't have those three things in place. And that's just three technologies. Now, the interesting thing about those technologies, a lot of those map to what the consumer is looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, like 65% of consumers want to pay for legal services electronically. That's from Clio. Like, what? It's out there. They do it for other things. Why would they expect anything less from any law firm, right? And same with like client portal from Clio. I think that was like close to 70%. Like people prefer that. Like you don't want to put the burden on the person to like know where the documents are, pull them out of email, download them, like mark them up, scan them back. Like we have to make this easier for people, right? So like make it as frictionless as possible. If you have a portal and they can, fill in a PDF and save it or something, or, just the way to make it better for the consumer is to make it easier. And honestly, it makes it easier for the law firms. Like why make it harder?
That's awesome. Yeah. And so one thing Chris said there that I think is huge, and I've heard him talk to clients about this all the time, is this word frictionless. Right? Like you want to make it as frictionless as possible to work with you. Chris mentioned anxiety. Like, a lot of people are very anxious when they're working with a law firm for the first time ever. And, they've heard horror stories, they heard whatever, so the easier you can make every step of the way. And that starts with the first time they hit your website or do a search for you all the way to, signing documents and stuff like that. So that frictionless point, I think is huge. So Chris, I want to go on payments because you mentioned payments from some Clio data. And like that's one that still shocks me. Like you said, like 70% or something like that, like are looking for payments. People want to use credit cards to pay electronic payments. When I say electronic payments, let's be honest, they're probably not calling and saying I want to use ACH, right? They want to use a credit card because there was at a point last year, Chris, where like if you went to a restaurant, you couldn't even use cash.
No.
Right. So people like you talk, and they were coming over with like restaurants were coming with like Wi-Fi devices where if you had the tap. You were just tapping and it was like totally contactless, right? And like if that becomes the expectation now is, well, I'm just carrying credit card. I don't even carry cash. Like in checks, forget it. I don't even know where my checkbook is these days. So the idea that and I don't remember the actual data. Like if you let me, I have a quick aside on this. Because I can't remember the actual data point, but I know LawPay has talked about this, and we have a talk that we're doing with LawPay, Smith AI, Clio, Law Clerk on a lot of these kind of trends that we saw last year of what worked. So we did a whole surviving kind of webinar series last year at CLEs and across the country and stuff that was very well received. And so we decided, how do we follow it up this year with, hey, now that we said do all these things last year because we weren't sure what was going to happen in a pandemic, here's what worked for law firms. Here's what we saw that maybe, you didn't need to spend the time on. So if you're going to start focusing on things in 2021 and beyond, to come out of this. Here's those specific things. And it's, again, around, like Cleo's talking about the technology and connecting that, from the intake all the way back. LawPay's in there, but LawPay had a quote. I'm not going to have the data right. So definitely people should check that out. Daniel, you could probably throw something in the chat for a link to that, because I think we're having our first webinar on that for the public, not through a CLE. I think it's next week actually. So I don't remember the actual date, and I should know that. Daniel will let me know, but he will definitely put it in the chat for everybody. So check that out. But it was like 70 something % of people, when they got a invoice with a credit card option, paid within 24 hours. And like I said, I have it's in that range. Let's say 60 to 80, somewhere in there, because I forget the actual data point. But that's it's also like if you give people the option, they're going to pay faster. So
is your AR pretty significantly there?
Absolutely, and you've seen it with clients. You have clients that still refuse to take credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Like we have a couple of clients that hate to pay with credit cards, right? But I mean, it definitely, the clients that take credit card, that their accounts receivable is much better.
Yeah. Well, just think about it. Like if the only way to pay you is via check or something else, like that's 10 more steps the person has to do. They have to find their checkbook, write it, do this, mail it, or drop it off. If it's credit card, on most people, they're paying it on their phone, and it's 2 clicks because the credit card, information is already saved, on their phone. So it makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, over the pandemic, the post office had all these issues that they actually took 2 post boxes that were walkable to me. They took them away. So I literally have to drive to the post office now, or walk even further, right? So that's
Yep.
crazy, right? So it's actually becoming harder to mail something. So
Mm-hmm.
take that advantage. So I wanted to get into, and we're going to run out of time here, Chris, again.
Of course.
So I wanted to get into some of the things that people can do to take away. So let's real quick, if you can give me like a rundown on some of the things, just a couple of things like maybe you've already talked to, and then let's hold the examples to after this kind of Facebook portion, and we'll push it to Fridays on the YouTube, and where you actually go into the detail of some client examples. We did this tactic, we did this, and they saw an increase in this. I think that's where people really like to see, and then we can just put a notation of where to skip to on Friday to get to that point. But we got to wrap up here. We always promise people about a half hour, and we're running out of time. So,
Sure.
like one tidbit that you would say, like if take away from the digital services to apply to your marketing, what's one thing you would say?
And the biggest thing here is I would say a lot of firms have adopted some of these things, right? Like starting to take credit card. They might use online scheduling like Calendly, or they might have live chat. They might respond really fast to leads. But the missing thing we always find is like firms might do all this, but they don't put any marketing behind it, right? So like you might take credit cards, but if you don't put that on your website or work that into your content, or why it's easier to work with you, how's someone going to know? So the big takeaway is you've probably adapted and worked in a lot of these things over the last year, if you haven't already had them in place already. But I'd be willing to bet you haven't fully squeezed the marketing potential of these to highlight the client experience and service, that it's easier working with you versus a firm that doesn't have some of this infrastructure in place.
So like, updating your homepage, getting, information on there, your Google My Business, like bragging about that you're easier to work with because you're doing the things consumers expect.
Correct.
So
they're expecting that you can do it. You need to call it what it is and say, you're expecting this. We meet that and exceed that. Here you go.
Yeah. And so we'll take that and then go into some examples in the next segment. We'll push that on Friday.
Yep. Sounds
Chris,
good.
as always, I'm glad we said one because we didn't even get through that one again. But we'll come into the next trend on our next show. But we'll finish this up. Stick with me for a second. And of course, if you ever have any questions and want to talk to Chris or one of our experts, you can email expert@gngf.com, right? Or at GNGFound. I know you're over on the Twitters and the Instagrams and stuff. So awesome.
Yep,
Stick with me, Chris.
Yep. Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe to our Facebook page so you get notified when our next episode goes live. We have new interviews about law firm marketing and the business side of running your firm here every other Wednesday. We're going to keep going here in the GNGF studios, and you can watch the full extended interview with Chris Cassaday this Friday over on our YouTube channel. We're going to be diving into more detail, about the specific things law firms, like Chris is doing with his law firm clients, the tactics to take advantage of these digital services. Thanks. We'll see you then. All right, Chris, thanks for sticking with me. We'll push this out on the Friday YouTube channel for the extended interview, and I put a link to get right here so that they'll be able to jump if they watch on Wednesday. So we were talking about this trend of digital services, and you left it where you were saying that basically law firms are not taking advantage of this. You of bragging about the fact that they've done like a lot of law firms are using Zoom. They are taking payments. They are doing some of these things, electronic documents. They've implemented Clio and have some of these tools, but they're not highlighting that on their website to say, look, we are easy to work with. You can work with us the way you are looking to work with a firm, so therefore you should call us because that's why. And that's something did I summarize that right? That's what you had kind of left us with.
Correct. Yep. Totally right.
So give me an example, and let's start with at least one. And if maybe I can dig into a second one, depending. I know you have a limited amount of time. You are so busy jumping on client calls left and right. I know. So thank you for doing this. So give me an example of somebody that maybe last year, or even from years prior, that where you've seen implementing these tactics made a difference.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I would say over the last year. I mean, there's one example that comes to mind. Estate planning, elder law client, previously did a lot of in-person stuff at seminars, which obviously completely shut down during COVID. But it was estate planning and elder law. So this was an area of law that actually did not slow down during this time. Like people wanted to get their affairs in order. And
so an older consumer base, right?
Yeah.
We talked about some of like the grandmas getting on Zoom and getting comfortable with technology, right? So an older consumer base.
Correct.
Very common in the office with the big binder of stuff and signing things, right? So this Correct. Is where that's their traditional path.
Totally. So we definitely worked together very closely to get a lot of these things off the ground quickly. Like they had case management, they had their internal operations buttoned up, but that's kind of where it stopped historically. So in the span of a week or two, it felt like even a shorter window, but we launched and implemented like online scheduling, like through Calendly. And then obviously Zoom was a piece of this. Credit card processing was a piece of this, and document signing was a piece of this, right? So like they had to take everything that they usually do offline and bring it where someone, sitting 2 hours away in the same state could still be, reach out and get moved through the process. So
right. So you help them implement these things, which is awesome.
Yep.
And that's the stuff you talked about that a lot of people did. So what were some of the things you did to kind of say, all right, let's brag about this, right?
Sure. So obviously updating the website so that the site gets thousands of visitors a month, and that didn't slow down. So we needed to quickly showcase the differentiator, right? A lot of firms during this time didn't update their website. A lot of firms during this time were just trying to figure out if the phone rings, who's going to answer it? Because I'm not sitting at my desk, right? Which is a whole nother thing. Like if you don't have like voice over IP phones, like maybe look into that and make sure that you can work remotely. But with this client in particular, updated the website to have a static banner at the top that said, we're not in the office, but we're still fully operational, which I'm sure you've seen 1,000 times by now. But the call to action from that is reach out, schedule a time with us. It's free. And that led into Calendly. So for those who aren't familiar with Calendly, they click the schedule and they pick a time on your calendar. And then we set it up so that the person had the option of phone or Zoom. A lot of people picked Zoom.
Right.
So then the flow was cold, prospects come in, schedule a time, which is a lead. Then they both get the shared invite, the attorney gets it, and then that prospective client gets it. Hey, we're going to talk Tuesday at 1:00. Here's the Zoom link. I'll see you there. And then you can actually, through Calendly, we had some like pre-qualification questions built in so that our client knew what they were getting into, and then had the time to maybe iron out any potential issues before the actual meeting. So say that happens, they have the Zoom meeting, everything goes well. They have DocuSign in place, which is electronic signing. They have everything queued up there. So meeting wraps up. prospective client gets what they need to sign, they sign it electronically, and then they're off and running. And the, they use LawPay specifically. So
Okay.
there's the payment component there as well, which
Which
is,
integrates easy with websites and
yeah, it
email.
integrates perfectly. So, in the span of, 2 weeks, we leapt forward, 5 years in the sense of like, people are expecting this, we have to meet them there. And then the one piece that is totally worth noting is updating your website is one piece, but this client in particular, we really saw a lot of lift and a lot of engagement with this when we leveraged email marketing. So we had a decent sized email list of past clients and prospects. And with estate planning and elder law, your past client is still a future client, right? If you need to update documents or, there's a new change in the law. So just sending out an email blast and saying, we're open, here's how you work with us during this crazy time, generated a ton of revenue that would have not been realized if we didn't launch this campaign and have this framework in place. And then the other piece is we did some really targeted Facebook ads too, based on age and demographic and interests, saying, you probably hear a lot of this stuff going on. People are trying to figure out, if they need to talk to a lawyer, for estate planning or elder law, what do they do? They see our ad to say, you can do it from the comfort of your home. Here you go. We don't actually even need to see each other in person. Totally safe. I mean, we grew new clients that way. I don't have the exact percentage in front of me, but it was insane. It was crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, they're an example of somebody that ended up 2020. If I know the client you're talking about, I know you have your team has a lot of estate planning clients in addition to other types, but like like this particular client, if I think I know what I'm talking about, they are somebody who had a better 2020 by the end of the year than they did in 2019. So that was, I thought that was interesting that sending out an email, like, so you didn't just update the website, but then you went to some of the stuff we had talked about in our last episode about, kind of being more multi-channel. You said, well, what do we do on the website? How do we put that in other mediums, right? So you said you put it in like Facebook and targeted social ads, social posts, saying, we're open. Here's how to work with us. You don't have to come in. You don't have to do that. You did. You said email marketing, right? So you targeted email. And if I remember, like this was one of those where you said that every time you sent an email, like they got clients. Like it was that, like, almost every week you're sending something just slightly different, tweaking it, but just highlighting that you were still open. They can be pretty much paperless in contact and not have to come in the office. And is this the same client? Because I remember there was one client that their state was slow to adopt digital signatures.
Yeah.
And so they end up having an event where people could drive through or something like that and park, and they would come out, and they came out in like gowns and stuff. But then like that was actually, and I don't know if it's the same client, but like you end up leveraging that on social media. So they got some buzz based on, hey, here's the new normal people are working in. We're working this way, whereas other people may have done this, but they didn't take the time to post on social media like, hey, look at this event we're having where people are getting their pen and they keep their pen and they sign this document. And we're in masks and we're scrubbed up and like that was pretty interesting too. Like, so even before the is this the same client? I don't know if it's the same client.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's because some things needed a witness or whatever. And yeah, it was a drive-through. They had a big tent, and you'd literally drive through, stay in your car. We've seen drive-through stuff, with vaccines and stuff lately, but I mean, they were doing this over a year ago. And yeah, hand them the clipboard and the pen. You keep all of that, give us the document back, and you have a copy for you. And everything was as frictionless again as possible, and as yes, you had to be here, but it's the best that's possible within the circumstances. So they really jumped on that quickly, and it made a huge difference.
And again, like they did that, which is awesome. And I think a lot of other firms, like said, well, I did something like that, but you guys took the next step and said, okay, take lots of pictures, get me this, get me that, and put them online, use them in the emails that went out to future people, use them in the targeted ads of we are working in the way that you now need a lawyer to work. And so like, again, brag about all this stuff that you're doing, which is what the consumers want to see. So I loved that. And again, like this was a consumer base that skewed a little older, and they crushed it, doing Zoom calls, doing electronic payments, doing, like electronic signature. So, when I hear people say, well, my clients are mostly 60 and up, so they don't do this stuff. It's like, you're crazy. They're on Facebook, or FaceTime or Zoom with their grandkids,
Yeah, they had probably attended a wedding in the last year over Zoom. So.
Correct. All right, I know you got to run to some client calls, Chris. So thanks for sticking with me. I think this is a good example of kind of taking this trend and saying, yes, you need to do it. Yes, you need to do all these things. And if you come on our Surviving to Thriving webinar that we're doing with a bunch of our legal industry friends, you'll hear a lot of specifics around the back office stuff like you were talking about. But I love the fact that you're saying, take it. And the trend is take that information and brag about it, because that's what consumers are expecting. And if none of the other law firms in your area are putting on their homepage that they work this new normal way, then you're going to get a client that they don't, because that's the way they want to work.
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. We'll wrap up here, and we'll come to the third trend next in the next episode.
Sounds good. It was awesome. Good
Awesome.
chatting with you, Mark.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Bye.
Hey, what's up? I'm Josh. Thanks so much for joining us. If you feel like you learned something today, think of how beneficial it would be to chat with myself or another one of our marketing consultants one-on-one. Go ahead and visit our website to schedule your free consultation. It only takes a minute.